Thank you everyone for attending our Chesapeake Rotary Club meeting today. If everybody could bow their heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this food that you've given us to nourish our body. We pray that you help those in need, whether it be sickness or distress. Please give your healing strength to those who need it the most. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Tom Dana, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael Benedetto, four-way test, please.
Four-way test, I think you think saying do.
First, is the truth. Second, is fair to all concerned. Third, will build goodwill among other friendships. Fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned.
All right. Thank you very much. Chuck Wilson. What? Chris didn't have fun or something? Oh, you did? Okay.
He's saying it quieter.
Well, that's fine, as long as somebody's there. That's fine. All right, Chuck.
Thank you, Jonathan. Don't have any guests here today, I don't believe. Right, Renee? All right. Well, let's go right into Happy Bucks. Any Happy Bucks? Here's one. Crystal. Leggings. Oh.
No, it's like elevate.
It's fancy schmancy workouts.
All my overspender children.
And I will tell you, an added benefit of that to Crystal is the fact that that stuff is extremely expensive, and Pure Barre sells many of the same type of merchandise at probably a much lower cost. So those people may walk out of Lululemon saying, that's a bit expensive, and go find the same type of merchandise over at Pure Barre for a much cheaper price. So it may be a double whammy for you.
That's where they get a $100 pair of leggings and a $30 skate.
There you go. There you go.
Anyone else? Happy Bucks. Michael.
Celebrating 26 years tomorrow. Being married to my lovely wife, Leah.
Congratulations. Anyone else? All right. Good. Back to Jonathan.
All right, folks. You've noticed when I came in today, I dropped a sheet of paper on the table. This is something that we discussed in our board meeting last week. As I've stated many times now, we all know that the Wine Festival's cancellation has pretty much done a crippling job on the club's ability to raise some money to fund some of our projects. We're taking some stances right now. We're taking the opportunity to try to do some things. One of the things we're asking is our members to step up. So we have a pledge sheet on the table. If you can donate any money to fund some of our projects, the most needed one right now would be Coach for Kids, which we generally run in December. Anything would be helpful. As you can see, there is a method of payment on there as well. You can do cash, you can do check, we can add it to your club dues. If you just want to select the method of payment that you are willing to do, that would be great. Any and all help will be greatly appreciated. Yes?
Do you know the average cost per coat so that a member can say, I want to buy 2 coats, I want to buy 3 coats, maybe that type of thing?
We don't as of yet. I don't know if Renee has any idea concerning that, since I know she is intimately involved in that project. And you know, one of the things that we discussed were sponsorships towards Coach for Kids and things of that nature to get the businesses together. But it was also brought to our attention that the schools really don't want any type of sponsorship attention or anything being, I guess, drawn, the media or anybody else drawn to this project, more for the privacy of the kids and things of that nature. So, you know, we talked about people sponsoring a coat and things of that nature. But we decided that this would be the better way to do it. But Sue Ann, good question, because essentially that's what you would be doing. If we know the cost per coat, you know, you could say you're paying for 2 coats or something to help a kid. But every little bit helps. One of the things we discussed with Anthony, a lot of the sponsorships or money that is donated for the Chesapeake Christmas Parade, which is also being canceled this year. Anthony is trying to divert those funds to go towards Coach for Kids this year, so people could still, you know, they may not be donating to the parade, but they're donating to a worthy cause and a worthy project that the Chesapeake Rotary Club is very passionate about. So like I said, we are trying some other things as well. There's some other ideas on the table that I'm working on, but this is just the quickest, easiest way for our membership to step up. That also goes for those who are watching this on FaceTime, or excuse me, not FaceTime, Facebook today. Anybody who would like to donate, you know, please get in contact with me, Renee, and all donations are going to be welcome. With that being said, today was going to be normally the day that we would have Scott Danner come up here and talk to us about Wine Festival. But since that did not happen and we had a late cancellation of the Wine Festival, we did not have any per se speakers to come and speak to us today. For that reason, a couple of our Rotary brethren have decided to step up and basically talk about how the COVID crisis has impacted them in a business sense. One of the people who has agreed to speak, and I guess we can start with him, would be Michael.
Thank you, Jonathan, and I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and share with you just a couple quick stories about COVID and how it impacted us. As many of you may know, we provide curbside recycling services to the cities of Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Suffolk. We also handle curbside recycling up in the Richmond area, and we also provide recycling and trash dumpsters to businesses and schools. And the impact of COVID was pretty significant to us. And quite frankly, without PPP money, we would be in a much different situation than we are today, and I might not be standing here right now. The school systems closing down really put some pressure on us because we were providing, in some cases, trash and recycling services. And we had those assets out on the street, and we had trucks and drivers that were then looking for other work within our organization, and we were able to find that with our curbside recycling vehicles. And if you could think about the dynamics of COVID and people working at home, our volume of recyclable material, as well as the trash that the city was collecting, Virginia Beach did a study and it was up over 20%. So 20% more volume requires 20% more assets and trucks and drivers. And if you are dealing with trash, you're paying 20% more to get rid of that trash. It's not coming from the business, it's coming from the residents now. And so it really created some challenges for us because vehicles were not available, and even if we did have some drivers that could operate the trucks, it was real challenging to try and get that material up off the street. And we may have some challenges this fall, and as we get into the Christmas season with vehicles. To get a truck nowadays is over $300,000 to get a truck to collect those cans. And the wait time is typically about 9 months to get a truck after you order it. So it's not like that you can just call up a company and get these. And rental trucks are not available either. We have 5 in our fleet right now, and they're about $9,000 a month, and it's real challenging to get more. We just can't get it, they don't have them available. The supply chain of vehicles and the production of trucks, very similar to cars, was impacted by COVID, and the factories were not producing what they were producing. So it made it real challenging for us. We're fortunate to have partners with the cities and some of the school systems to support us. We were dealing with China back in beginning of 2018 and some trade challenges there with their government and not allowing certain materials into their country. That's expanded to some other countries too. There's a new facility that may open up called TFR, which is right near the high-rise bridge, that could take some paper products and turn it into a pulp and make it 99% pure to be able to get it into some of these countries that do not allow certain materials like single-use plastics and trash into their country for environmental reasons. The same token, we're dealing with collection challenges. We also have a big sorting line, and these sorters are all within 6 feet of each other. So we had masks and protective equipment and break rooms that we had with our 300 plus people. It's been real challenging because we had to stagger breaks, which meant that we had to slow down conveyor belts because we were staggering breaks, staggering lunches, trying to do things to the best that we could. We've been very fortunate that we have not been hit by a COVID outbreak. If we did, it potentially could close down our collection operations or our processing operations. So we've been real fortunate, and we hope to remain that way moving forward. Other things that we've experienced from a COVID perspective, we haven't lost any people. We've kept everybody we have, and we're still looking for people. The e-commerce switch with people doing more mail order has created more volume of recyclable materials. And that was a trend that's been going on for a couple of years now at least, and will continue moving forward. So all that material that gets delivered to houses now is getting put into the recycling cans and creating more volume for us. All good to keep it out of the landfill, all good to keep it getting recycled. And some of the things that we're seeing moving forward in our industry is a lot of pressure on companies with single-use plastics. And they talk about takeout products, and everything that you take out from a takeout is trash, and all that plastic and the impact to the environment. So there are discussions that are re-arising within our industry about bottle bills, and should we put a nickel or 10-cent deposit on bottles? And there are reasons why we should and reasons why we shouldn't. If we did get a nickel deposit on it, we might lose a significant amount of revenue that we would get from people recycling the plastic bottles and cans, because you would not be bringing them or putting them in your recycling container, you'd be bringing them back to a distribution center for that. And we do count on that revenue. Another reason for the bottle bill, or an impact of the bottle bill, would be that you're creating a demand but not necessarily creating a supply. And we go through ups and downs in the recycling market just the way every commodity does, and having that additional supply without the demand on the other side might mean that material is not getting recycled even if you put the deposit back on it. A lot of pressure and conversations about EPR, which is extended producer responsibility, with manufacturers that are out there. If you're creating a product, what are you creating? Can it get recycled? Can it be put into a city or a waste stream? We've seen some communities look at banning plastic bags, which would be a tremendous benefit to us, because one of the most challenging items we deal with at our facility are plastic bags. We may not be able to ban them altogether, but we certainly want to make sure that they are not put in the recycling containers. So as we move forward as a company and as an industry, trying to get people to recycle right. One of the biggest challenges we have is that about 20% of everything that people put into recycling containers are the wrong materials. And to simplify it, we're looking for paper bottles and cans, which does not include the plastic bags or yard waste, e-waste, and other type of items. So that's really the message that I wanted to leave you with, that we look forward to continuing to provide the services that we have. We're thankful for the PPP, and we ask you all to recycle right. Thank you, Jonathan. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah. Mike, I have another question.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about pressure on some of the suppliers and the manufacturers. I think in particular styrofoam. I see that a lot of food that we get, we take home, that kind of stuff, comes in styrofoam. Will they ban that in other parts of the country? Is there a way of doing that here in Virginia as well, or have you heard?
haven't seen the movement here, not locally and not within the state. And I think one of the reasons why is that Virginia is typically one of the top 3 states in importing solid waste. When we look at Virginia as a region and compare it to Delaware, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, all the surrounding states that we have, there is something that's called a waste fee that is put on there. Some people might call it a tax. And if you're disposing of waste in a landfill, there is a cost associated with that above and beyond what the landfill would charge you. And those dollars that they would charge and collect would then be used to help environmental initiatives. It works and works well in other areas, but here in Virginia, there's such a strong lobbying effort by companies like Waste Management that own mega landfills here, and we're importing anywhere from 6 to 8 million tons of waste from outside of Virginia's borders into the landfills that you might see off of 64 in Bethel or in Charles City, and some of the other landfills that are throughout the state of Virginia. So we haven't seen that effort. There's been some opposition by the Retail Alliance in regards to plastic bags. There was efforts down in northeastern North Carolina where they did ban it, and that's changed a little bit, and now they're allowing the plastic bags back into the community. But to us and to environmentalists, plastic is one of the worst things, and styrofoam is one of the worst plastics to create, with dioxins going into the air and problems that will happen to our world, if not in our generation, the generations to come. Thank you. Yeah. That's it.
For several years, I've been trying to tell my neighbors not to plastic bag recycling goes since you told the story about the street that came from.
Right.
Did you guys distribute, most people that I had mentioned to my neighbors, people just have no idea the plastic bags should never go in the recycling. They think they put all the recyclables in a plastic bag, put it in the bin, it's fine. So a lot of times, on my case Tuesday morning, I'm out there taking stuff out of my neighbor's bags and putting it into the cans for them. Did you guys distribute a sticker that goes on top of the cans that says no plastic bags? Because, you know, our cans originally came with stickers. Whatever was recyclable at the time was mentioned. But they all ran off after about a couple months. But just a sticker that says no plastic bags, at least at the point across to people who have never heard what you told us for years. You should put plastic bags in recycling.
Yes. Thank you, Anthony. It's a great idea, and we are considering that. There are, on most recycling carts, what is acceptable and what's not. And a lot of those communications do mention plastic bags specifically on how to recycle right. And we're not saying plastic bags are not recyclable. We prefer you not to get them in the first place with a reusable bag or paper bag. And if you are going to get a plastic bag, to bring it back to the supermarket where they can turn that back into a plastic lumber. Thank you for that. Yes.
You mentioned that you all have not had any outbreaks or anything yet. Has there been an added cost to business for doing any type of testing on your employees when they come into work?
Yes, so we do test with everything from the temperature on their forehead and coughing, etc. We have a lot of temps too, and those are the bigger concern that we have, is that the Hispanic labor force that we have day in and day out, are they getting tested? Are they coming in with something that could create some issues for others within our organization? And we've been assured that the temping agency is doing that. So there is definitely a cost associated with it. If you start to have symptoms, we do want you to get tested. We do want you to stay out. We do not want you to come into work. The cost for the testing, though, is minimal compared to the operational disruptions it's created within our organization, trying to adhere to different mandates with spacing and protective equipment for that. That's been the bigger challenge that we've had. Yes, Ken.
Frank's up on the peninsula recycles some plastic, not all. I mean, it's not single-use plastic. It's stuff like comes around the toilet paper you can't find anymore. Has there been any thought about doing that kind of thing in this area, or is that just like specialized equipment they have?
Is it plastic type materials that they're taking?
Yeah, they turn them into the plastic boards that people put on decks.
Yes. So Trex is in Winchester, Virginia, and they do make plastic lumber that you might put onto a deck or a house. And they do take a lot of the plastic bags that are in the area, and the problem that we have in accepting plastic bags would be that it creates an operational challenge for us to try and separate it out. It would be too wet with moisture from bottles, and then dust is a problem. So they do not buy any post-consumer type plastics that would come to our facility. When I say post-consumer, I should say that you use it, you bring it right back to the grocery store. You're not mixing it with anything else. And they still even have a recipe on how to make the plastic. And it's been challenging over the years because some plastic has been biodegradable and photodegradable, which you don't want on plastic lumber. And they still have a recipe. So even though they may not get enough plastic bags, they have a certain recipe that they need to make this plastic lumber consistent. And those types of plastics, other than the number 1s and number 2s, there is some interest in some number 5s, which is a polypropylene, but there isn't a lot of volume to it. And companies that are taking the 1 through 7s and all types of rigid plastics or the flexible type of plastic like bags are having some challenges in selling it. The markets that they would sell it to overseas are interested in some of it, but not all of it. And the stuff that they're not interested in is creating some environmental problems in their water and their landfills that are being disposed of improperly, perhaps burned or thrown away. And that's what the foreign countries are really looking at, and our industry and the Basel laws and rules and regulations are saying that a lot of these countries are not allowing plastics in there regardless of how clean they are. They're banning, I think it was Sweden that banned single-use plastics. So they don't even want the forks, the knives, the plates coming in there. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Next, Debbie Ritter, could you please come up here and explain how this is taking a toll on the City Council and the City of Chesapeake?
One, I might get to go first because I could talk for 2 minutes or 20 minutes. And John Maddox, while you're looking at your phone, if I can finish quickly, I might ask you, if you can, to give an update on the business loans. So I'm going to go pretty quickly. I have to be honest. Really and truly, the City Council has, other than being a normal, well, I think I'm a normal person. Some of my colleagues, I would have to add, perhaps do not. But we haven't had a big impact. The city itself has been impacted, as you all can imagine. If you look at us like a business, we're dependent on the revenues that we get from our taxpayers and other levels of government, which is also taxpayer money. We employ about 3,500 to 4,000 people. We fund the schools with 6,000 employees. So it really, the challenge is, and to be honest, I think we met the challenge well by hiring our new city manager. You've met Chris. He has been able to take the whole pandemic and really manage things within the city very well. There have been some significant changes, but we have not furloughed any employees. We have not had employees lose their jobs. The police are seeing an uptick in crime. The fire department calls are up, particularly and interestingly, kitchen fires. So they're putting out PSAs that you wouldn't think would be necessary. The EMS calls are up. They already comprise 70% of our fire department responses. The need for mental health care is significantly up. We're dealing with, the council's a policy body. We're not the operating people. And I'm sure the city manager is quite happy that we're not the operating people. But I have been, and those of you who know me well, a compliment is very difficult to get out of me. I expect excellent performance, but I have to say that the performance of our city has been exemplary. We're in a much better financial position than most cities because our council has demonstrated for years fiscal discipline that has allowed us to build up very substantial revenues to meet these challenges. Secondarily, we have been the recipient of $42 million in CARES Act funding. The state was given the initial round $3 billion. Local government, they have, in that first round, they released almost, I think it was about 660 some million to local governments, and our share of that first round was 21 million. We have also gotten another 21 million. So the city manager made a recommendation, and it was general, it went down to the penny, on how to best disperse that money. So the bulk of the money went to the city for overtime pay for people. We are giving bonuses to our frontline employee. Actually, every city employee is getting some sort of a bonus. And it ranged, the top is $2,000 an employee down to $250, depending on their interaction with the public and the necessity for them to do their jobs. So we haven't, I know the first responders are getting $2,000. I would not be surprised if our sanitation workers aren't getting the same. You know, they're basic things the government must do, and one of those is pick up the trash. So Michael's told you his side of that story. We have our side where we still have to do that. We still have to meet those basic services. The schools in the first round were given $6 million. We have supplemented that in our succeeding rounds by about another $6 million to help them meet their challenges. But we've also put probably, what, John, 4 million or 5 million into assistance for small businesses in Chesapeake. The initial round was 500,000, I believe, for the small, I hate this acronym, SWAM, Small Women and Minority Businesses. So I guess, I don't know how you define a small woman. And so a tall woman might not be eligible. Who makes up these things? Even the Navy does that. Huh?
We've had a B in there, small business.
What? Right. Well, small, I mean, small goes somewhere else. If you know how to, if you ever learn to diagram a sentence, whoever made that up did not. But there was a special allocation. I'm sorry, you know, you've got to have humor where you can. And then we also designated 2 rounds of assistance to small businesses that is done through John and the Economic Development Authority. We allocated about $5 million to human services that would help out with people with additional help with, I don't like to use the word entitlement, with their rent that is pandemic caused, with utility bills. That's an application process, but we devoted about $5 million to that. So we also have moved an employee to our city manager's office full-time to track every dollar of this CARES money. One of my ancillary duties is as chairman of our audit committee. 2 years ago, I don't know if y'all know this, we're real proud of this, we were ranked of 180 cities that were evaluated, the #1 city in the US and Canada for our audit excellence. So the city manager has put someone in charge of every dollar because we met with our external auditors yesterday. This is all being tested to make sure. And some of us are pushing real hard, get every dollar out the door to people who need it for whatever reason. Otherwise, it goes back to, as we refer to it, the black hole in Richmond. We have no idea what they're spending money on. But John, do you have an update? I think people would be real interested in it. Come on up here.
I'm not actually on that particular committee.
But you know everything.
No, I know everybody, not everything. I don't remember the exact number, Debbie, but I know that we're in phase 2 right now. There's a whole lot of thresholds that when people apply for this, there's certain things that they have to prove. They have to have receipts. They have to have all kinds of backup. So the staff at Economic Development Office is reviewing everything that comes in. I think we've had 50 or 60 on the last round that we're working on right now. They go then to committee for approval, and then they bring it to the full authority. Tomorrow is our next meeting, and we expect a big update tomorrow. So other than that, I don't know the details. I'm on a different committee.
Oh,
What? What?
okay. That's all right.
That's all we
that's
got.
good.
That's all I got for now. That's all I'm telling you. They didn't send me any update information.
Well, they didn't send any to us either, so I may be at your meeting tomorrow. Anyway, I think, yes. Really? Well, good, then nobody's gonna move my chair around. I have a little note up by my chair that says, should you move my pillows or adjust my chair and not return them, next time you meet in this chamber, you will get a folding metal chair. There's nothing like coming in after 3 hours worth of meetings and sitting in your chair and looking directly at your desk because somebody's put it way down or taken your pillows. So, I mean, just...
Small women.
Exactly. That does make me nuts. Does anyone have any questions? Marcel?
How much did the tax revenue come out?
You know, we haven't gotten a full report on that. We got a projection of where they expect the reductions in about 15 different revenue sources. In all of those sources, we're either just barely under what we got last year, or actually some of the revenues are up. So the manager said yesterday, the manager instituted not only a hiring freeze, only he could make the exemptions, and public safety was exempted from the hiring freeze. But there is enough uptick in the revenue that he was able to authorize us funding our pay and compensation study for the employees, which is very important to do. And we'll be having a retreat next month. But the interim reports that we're getting is that revenues are beating the downward projection. So again, with our fiscal policies, we feel that we're probably in better shape than at least the other managers are telling our manager. We're really in better shape financially because we have a lot of discipline, i.e. we're all cheap. You know, we're careful, and I think that's good. Our manager is also a little bit surprised. He's very rapidly, after being here less than a year, becoming the senior tenured city manager on the south side. So it's pretty amazing. The Suffolk manager has resigned, taken another job. We all know about Portsmouth. We're very grateful, by the way, for Portsmouth. They keep us out of the paper. Virginia Beach has a new manager, so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them. I I know you probably, I don't like to get too far in the weeds because it makes me nuts. Because it probably makes you nuts. But we've got some exciting things going on in the city. A lot for Western Branch. I'll tell you one thing I hear. So I know, Suann, you would never say this. Every area of the city thinks they are the redheaded stepchild. That they get no attention and only Great Bridge gets attention. They apparently have not been to Great Bridge recently because there much happening there. But we have got a lot of exciting things going on in Western Branch, in South Norfolk. I think it's allowing the city as a whole, policies and improvements. This sounds trite, and I don't mean it to be. We're getting some boxes checked that have been long awaited by people who live in all the redheaded stepchild areas, which will allow us to move to some of the others that really do need some redevelopment attention. So despite all the bad news and all the problems we're all going through, I think the city is moving forward. I think you folks in Western Branch are really going to be happy, and you're going to be electing a new mayor for your area. He lives in Virginia Beach. But the investment that Pete Cotarides and his family are making in that area of the city, it is truly remarkable. And I think pretty soon everybody's going to be traveling over there once or twice a month, just because so many great things are happening. So I think that's about it. See, John left. It's a good thing I got him around.
Thank you, Mike and Debbie, for filling in some time and providing us with that information, helpful to all of us. Know we've run a little bit over today, but next week we're going to have Sean Avery, who's the president and CEO of the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, come and speak to us. The last week of the month, it'll be Keegan Chiplin, who is the director of the Military Aviation Museum. And that will finish off our month. So if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we are adjourned.